that, which I'm actually pretty upset about because it's mashallah, it's gotten very, very nice here. I have to make more trips. My name is Omar Abu Atiyah. Today I'll be wearing two hats. The first of the New Jersey Muslim Civic Coalition, which Musami will tell you a little bit more about. And the second is the Ali Leadership Institute. The Ali Leadership Institute is a fellowship that takes place over the summer. It was created by two people, Mus'ab Ali, who is the youngest elected Muslim official in the United States when he was elected to the Jersey City Board of Education. And he's a recent Harvard Law School graduate, as well as his sister, Abira Saeed, who is a Yale graduate. And they came to this realization once they started getting involved in politics, in which they noticed that young people were completely unaware, uneducated about our political system. And so they sought a way to get people, young people, more civically engaged and educated. And so I'm actually a recent graduate, recent being 2-3 years, from that fellowship program. I found so much benefit from it. And now I lead my own programs across the state of New Jersey. And so this presentation is the first week of that program. So typically the program is split into 3 parts. The first is an informational, instructional piece. Then you have a chance to work on a capstone project where you actually go out into the real world and try to make a change. And the third part is they bring people from across the state. Governor Murphy's lawyer, or state congressman, or federal congressmen, or senators, or whatnot. And they get to speak to the fellows, network with the fellows, teach them a little bit about how things actually work in the real world. So with that context, this presentation is just a taste of what these fellows will learn. And I think that it would be beneficial for us, coming off of this election, understanding that we as a community have a very long way to go in understanding these systems in a way to approach devastating events like what's happening in Gaza, or domestic issues as well in a more strategic manner. So with that being said, let's talk about Government 101. All right, so here you see a triangle. And at the top of the triangle, you see local, in the middle state, and then federal. I want you guys to notice something, that at the top, there is the municipal council board, right? You got local on the top. It's very important that you guys realize this, because I think a lot of people will downplay the importance of local politics. Many of us don't even know our mayors. We don't know their names. We don't know the Board of Education names. We don't know what positions there are to run for. So I want to really bring your attention to this top of the triangle, because as we'll talk about later, it's actually very important at the local level. And there's a lot that you can do and accomplish. Then you have the state level. You have the state, the governor's office, you have the state agencies, and then you have the dual chamber legislature. So that, in a way, will mimic the next stage, which is the federal level, in which you have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. We're going to talk about more of these in depth. All right, so local governments. Again, we don't really pay attention to this too much, but they can control a lot of things. So public utilities, your electricity, your gas, your waste disposal. I'm sure you guys are aware of this part. You pay your taxes towards it, so where the money goes, you'll pay attention. Local level public service, police, firefighters, EMS services, and then there are your local resources like your public parks, your libraries, other aspects of daily life. So one thing that I want you guys to realize is that not every municipality is the same. This will be important for later on in the conversation. So the exact organization of local governments will vary from state to state. For example, in my state, actually it varies from state by state, but it also varies town by town. So in my town, we actually don't vote for the mayor directly. We'll vote for 5 people, and amongst those 5 people on what we call a township council, they will choose the mayor amongst themselves. There are other towns where you actually vote for the mayor. There are other towns where you have a city or a town manager. So there are quite a few nuances that it's important to understand as you approach these elections. And so a common theme that we'll see as we move upwards from from town to state to federal, is that the rights of the lower level get their rights from which is not afforded by the higher level. In other words, the town can do everything that the state cannot do, and the state can do whatever the federal level cannot do. All right, so state governments. So of course you have the governor. Who's our governor? Governor Murphy. You have the state legislature, state courts. I'm sure we don't even know who's in our state legislature. There are state assemblymen, state congressmen, state senators. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of us, including myself, we don't know who these people are. But New Jersey has a budget of $60 billion. $60 billion is at stake at only the state level. Okay? So what are they doing with this money? What does the state government afford us? They're going to take care of certain healthcare needs. So Medicaid is a dual state and federal initiative, whereas Medicare is done by the federal level only. They will oversee driving matters, so when you get your driver's license, your driving records, vehicle insurance, birth, marriage, death certificates, professional licensing, when you want to become a lawyer, when you want to become a pharmacist, a doctor. These are some of the things that the state government will do. Okay, then you'll have your federal government. So I want to throw in a little disclaimer here at the bottom. Barack and Biden with their besties. Certainly we would not say this today, but this was something that had come out. This presentation was made 4 or 5 years ago. But I want you to take a look. So you have Biden, who is our president. You have the Supreme Court representing the judicial branch. And then you have the legislative branch. There are a couple of things to notice here. The first is, if you're paying attention to the news right now, you'll see that the president-elect Donald Trump is currently appointing his cabinet. And there is obviously a lot of controversy surrounding his appointees. Not something worth going into right now, but these people are very powerful because they control the state agencies in our federal government, right? So these are things like the Director of Homeland Security or any of these really big state agencies. So they have a lot of weight, of course. Then you have the judicial branch. The highest court in the land is the Supreme Court. And then finally, the legislative branch. I don't want to cover this up because these are some pretty interesting statistics from the last election. If you take a look at the breakdown of the 118th Congress, previous, you'll find that amongst Democrats, 60% were men. In the GOP, 85% were men. You'll find 59% were white, about 90% in the GOP were white, and Christian, 76%, 99% in the GOP. Obviously, GOP is for the Republican Party and for the grand old party. Okay, and then if you look at the gender, the U.S. population is 49% men, and Congress was 72% men. Women in Congress were 28%, you can do the math, 51% in the general population. This is all to say that it's not very representative of our population. And then when you take our community, for example, there's very again, something that's really important about this and something that I want you to keep in mind is this idea of checks and balances. The checks and balances is where the Supreme Court, the legislative branch, and the executive branch, they'll all check each other's power. So if the executive branch, let's say, President Trump or President X, decides one day he wants to amass a little bit more power, and he decides to do something that is unconstitutional or against the law of the land, the Supreme Court will come and say, you can't do that. And so it's very important that there is this checks and balances. Now, if you look at the current state as it is, we have a homogeneous group across all three. What I mean by that is one party controls the Supreme Court, controls the executive branch, and controls the legislative branch. So that could have some pretty negative effects on the way that our democracy runs. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the legislative branch. The legislative branch creates laws. This is Harvey Specter. If you guys have watched the show Suits, Harvey Specter gets around the laws. So let's talk a little bit more about legislative branch. All right. Okay, so this is a very, very important slide. The United States Congress is made up of two houses. The first is the House of Representatives. There are 435 House of Representative members. And the number of representatives, obviously 435 seems like a pretty odd number. Well, it's based on population. So when they were creating the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, they didn't want a state like Utah or Idaho have the same representation on the floor as a state like California, because California has a much larger population. So they wanted to, create a system in which there would be a more proportional representation. So each person in the House of Representatives serves on 2-year terms, and there's a little bit more granularity, not worth talking about tonight. Then you have the Senate. Each state is afforded 2 senatorial seats, and this is more of an equal house, in which each state has the same amount of representation in Congress. And they serve 6-year terms, so they have more opportunities to get stuff done without being replaced and recycled. Okay, so what's important about this? Actually, we'll be on the next slide. Okay, perfect. So how are laws created? So to pass in the House, a bill needs 218 out of 435 votes. And to pass in the Senate, you need 51 votes out of 100. Why is this important? When we're watching the news or reading newspapers or whatever it is, you will often see a sensationalized headline that says something along the lines of, the House of Representatives agrees or pass a bill to send $200 million to country, I don't know, let's call it country I. Okay? They decide to send $200 million there. So then you'll see all of these people in their group chats, younger guys, older guys, and they'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe we're about to send $200 million to country I. That's not quite right. You see, these media companies are kind of taking advantage of you a little bit, because the way that it actually works is that it has to get through the House and the Senate. So a bill that passes the House and goes to the Senate and doesn't pass the Senate, well, that doesn't happen. It doesn't work. So this is just something important that I thought I would mention as you guys are reading these headlines. It needs to pass through both of them. And of course, the executive branch, in this same theme of checks and balances, if it passes through both, the President of the United States can veto it. There's a little bit of nuance there, but that's the general principle. And now the executive branch. Okay, so again, this is of the current administration. You have the president, the current president, Joe Biden. You have Kamala Harris as the vice president, and the cabinet of trusted advisors. It's a great observation. The people who created this slideshow thought they were pretty funny. So obviously, it's not a cabinet. But as we talked about before, the cabinet are the heads of all these state agencies that have all this power. And Amusami was telling me as well that they actually used to have their discussions in the kitchen. Next time. Now, judicial branch. Okay, so the judicial branch interprets the meaning of laws, applies laws to individual cases, and decides if laws violate the Constitution. You have two parts. You have the federal courts and the Supreme Court. So, for example, 2 years ago, I had the chance to intern at a federal court. These federal courts can be in states. So I interned in a federal court, but it was in New Jersey. So the type of case that was presided on was Johnson & Johnson versus the United States of America. And basically, Johnson & Johnson was suing the United States of America for infringing on their First Amendment rights, blah, blah, blah. You guys don't need to know that. But those are the types of cases that will, reach a federal court. So they handle cases that involve federal laws, like tax and bankruptcy matters, lawsuits involving U.S. and state governments or the Constitution. And then, like we said before, the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. And they'll serve until they're dead, until there are exceptional circumstances. So this is also a part of the controversy that you're seeing now, in which some people are imploring the current Supreme Justices who kind of lean left to the liberal side to kind of resign so that the current president, Joe Biden, can appoint new ones so that they don't die in their term. The new president chooses more red-leaning. Okay, so now you have the Electoral College. There's always a lot of controversy regarding the Electoral College because the Electoral College is proof that we don't actually vote for the President of the United States. And if you did think that, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. The Electoral College was made by the Founding Fathers because they kind of believed that most people were uneducated or uninformed on politics. And so they created this system of electoral votes in which each state has a certain number of electoral votes, and they're supposed to vote based on how they think their state will vote. And so there is supposed to be some correlation between the Electoral College votes and the popular vote in which you and I participate. But it is possible for a president to lose the popular vote and to still win the presidency, as we saw with the last, actually, the President Trump's election when he beat Hillary. Okay, the power of Washington. Again, so why do so many people care about what happens in Washington? Well, obviously, what they say has a big impact on our lives. They have the budget to back it, right? They have $5 trillion in their budget. Where most of it goes, we're not quite sure. Well, actually, we do know it goes towards the military. But other than that, there are a lot of different things that the federal government is funding, which can affect our lives. They also have as a side note, a $1.8 trillion deficit. That is a different conversation. So as we spoke about before, states have very large budgets as well, which is why it is worth thinking about getting involved at the state level and kind of caring about state elections. And so you can see here that Missouri has a $50 billion budget, New Jersey has a $53 billion budget, and now it's closer to $60 billion, and California has almost $240 billion budget. Okay, so who makes your decisions? This is always a really fun slide that I get to show in my class because we're very unaware of these things. So I want this part to be a little bit active. Feel free to answer. So how many congressional districts are in your state? And you would know the answer to this if you know how many congressmen are in your state. 12. Yeah, actually that's right. There are 12. And how many state legislative districts are in the state? It is 40. It is 40. Most people don't know that because we don't even know who our state legislators are. And then who are your senators? Let's do 2. Who are your senators now? And who will be your senators next year? Perfect. Yeah, so we have Cory Booker and George Helmi, who are our current senators. And who will be our senators next year? Yes, perfect. So we're going to have Cory Booker, because his term doesn't expire yet, as well as newly elected Andy Kim. Okay, and your congressional representative, it'll vary from area to area. But let's say for this area, does anyone know the congressional representative? Who is it? It's Bonnie Watson. Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, state reps, I can guarantee no one knows their state rep. Guarantee. Yeah, I didn't think so. Something that's interesting about state reps, I think it is important to say, so in my town, actually I want to touch on this before we move on, but state reps have a lot of power too. So for example, in my town in Holmdel, I was able to create a good relationship with one of the state representatives there in the state house. And when it was time, when the Masjid al-Aman we wanted to get a FEMA grant, or a grant for security, for fences, for camera systems and all of that stuff. And they actually endorsed us to receive, I think it was $450,000 from the state government to secure that masjid campus. So it's actually really important and really useful to have some of these connections. And then, who is your mayor? Who's the mayor of South Brunswick? I actually don't know that. Who is it? Is it? Okay, so it's Charlie, Mayor Charlie. How are they elected? Do you know? Okay, okay. So it's probably a township council, and you vote for them, and then they vote. Exactly. So that's exactly how it is in my town as well. And then the last one, who are your representatives of your high school? Rather, your Board of Education. Do we know, like I don't know, one member of the Board of Education? Okay. This is also really important. And I have a very small story. This is the last slide. So, and this is something I think I'm going to talk about as well. So I'm an elected representative in my town, Holmdel. I'm elected as the lowest thing that you can be elected for, something called county committee. And I'll talk a little bit about what you can do as a county committeeman. But once I started getting involved in my town, I for a couple of years, I started creating a block of Muslims. So when the election time would come over, you'd have Board of Education candidates, mayoral candidates, township council candidates. They would call me on my cell phone. They say, Omar, we want to meet with the Muslims. Let's have a night, sit down, a meet and greet. I want to hear what you guys really think. So for the past 4 or 5 years, we've been having these meetings. And so 2 years ago, one time, Chris Damari, someone on the Board of Education now, he had called us and he said, Omar, I want to meet with you guys. I want to learn about what you guys think. So I said, okay, we'll set it up. So we came over, we had our conversation. We said, Chris, if we get you elected, something we would really like to see, which we don't think is that big of a deal, we would love to see Eid on the calendar. We think it's like a very small thing that we can do, and we would like to see it done. And he said, oh, okay, yeah, we can think about it. And, we're sitting there, and we're like, politician talk, we're going to get him elected, not going to do anything for it. He gets elected. 2 weeks later, after he starts his term, 2 weeks later, he calls me on my phone. He says, Omar, we're going to discuss the school calendar. How many people can you get at the next Board of Education meeting? I said, I could get all of them. He said, bring all of them. We brought all of them to the Board of Education meeting, and within 2 weeks, we got Eid off on the calendar. Something like this, it shouldn't even really be a big deal. It's something so easy for them to do, but we have to organize within ourselves. And this came after making connections and creating relationships and becoming organized and creating these blocks. So these small things, now, when I go to the high school, by the way, we have a very small school. We have like 7 converts in that all-white town, which is amazing. You would not expect it in our town. But this type of thing really encourages people of different faiths to feel more welcome, and so it really is worth your time. And they're very easy. These things are they're low-hanging fruit. And so we should, in every town that we have a little bit of people, we should be trying to, reach for these things. So I believe that is the last slide. Okay, so we're going to take a little break, not to go away, but I kind of wanted to do a little exercise for you guys. And so I want you guys, this is something that we do in our group as well. I want you guys to, find like 4, 5, 6 people around you. You should be comfortable with each other. Same community, just prayed next to each other. Find 4 or 5 people around you and discuss the most pressing, most urgent, most important issues to you on the local level, the state level, and the federal level. And we'll do about 10 minutes for that. It'll take us to 9 o'clock. And then when we come back, let's just discuss those things, and then we'll move on to the last portion. Okay? So let's do that for 10 minutes, inshallah. 1 minute warning. 1 minute warning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. All right. So I'm really happy. I heard some really productive conversation. So we're just going to sample from around the room and hear what you guys think. So I'm immediately going to go to the younger guys over there. So tell us a little bit about what you see as the really, the big problem in your lives. Say that again? We don't have a Yeah, which one is the most interesting one that people will really relate to? All right, go ahead. Absolutely. So, not to go too long on this, but where would you go if you wanted to take care of that? Yeah, like which representatives are you going to talk to? The Board of Education, right? So they're gonna have some control over it. Yeah, I don't want to like extend it too long. There's so much that can be said. But okay, we'll take another one as well. Uh, Volunteers. Maybe should we do like you pointing to someone? Okay, yeah. Absolutely. So the concern was the level of education is not the quality that we would expect it to be, nor what it was years ago when the brother attended school. And our taxes should be paying for things that we want, like Arabic class. We don't have to go and pay private for it. We take one more. All right, ma'am. Mashallah. Okay, everybody has homework right now. You only need 12 kids. 12 kids and they'll pay for it. Yeah. Mm. Wow. Okay, so there you have it. You have some homework to do. We can absolutely hear from the sisters. Um, yeah, I guess we didn't really touch on state or federal either. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. We've got to stay involved in what's going on around us, and we really need to keep a pulse on these things. The last thing that I will say, and then I'm going to hand it off to Sammy so he can tell you a little bit more about the New Jersey Muslim Civic Coalition, is I just want to briefly talk about the county committee because I think it's a very underappreciated position, and I think that in any town that you live in, you should really seek out this position. It's very, very easy to get. As a matter of fact, I was elected after I think 75 votes. You don't have to campaign for it. Very easy to do. Not a lot of people are thinking about it. The only people that are thinking about it are the people who are already in power with a lot of influence. That's one of the ways that they keep it. This position can elect party leadership in the town, the county, and in some cases, the state level. So the county committee is very, very powerful. It's one of those positions where you get what you give to it. That's how, I'll speak anecdotally. We got Eid on the Eid as a holiday on the calendar, 2 weeks in a red town. We got the $450,000 grant. We got this, we got that. I was doing that from a county committee seat. I don't like to call them that, but our cousins, as they're sometimes described, this is what they're doing very often. And so I just want you guys to think about that. You could look it up online, see what seats are empty. A lot of times they are empty. Run for it. Build from the bottom up. That's how we're going to win in the future. So I'll hand it off.
Jazakallah khair. Takbir. 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 Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. A lot of my time recently has been spent on civic engagement. And the reason that's the case is because I actually don't know a better way to help all the people around the world, and especially if the issue of Palestine is important to you, the people of Palestine, other than getting civically engaged. If we just look at one multiplier, it'll make the case clear. So AIPAC gets about $100 million in funding annually. $27 billion was just released to go to Israel for defense weapons. Annually, it's something like $4 billion. What is that multiplier? When we think of zakat, we're like, ooh, we can get 10 times, 20 times. Yes, that's true. But you can actually participate in the political process and get a huge multiplier as well. 27 billion compared to 100 million is a 270x. Even 4 billion, which is your typical, is a 40x return on investment. It's a return on investment. And a lot of people, so Ahmad spoke about a lot, mashallah, and very eloquently, about sort of the traditional system. What I want to do is break down the way that you can have influence on these systems. People don't understand exactly how a lot of these work. So I'll give you an example. Our Congress is elected. Most people only see the headlines, oh, Bonnie Watson got 250,000 votes or something like that. What they don't realize is that depending on what the district is, whether it's Democratic or Republican, the actual vote was done in the primaries. So whoever wins the primary will, in all likelihood, win that seat. There is a seat in Queens where the gentleman won it. He won it with about 300,000 votes. But do you know how many votes he had for his primary? What do you think? 8,000. 8,000 primary votes won him the Democratic nod, which then won him the seat. So he got 300,000, but that's irrelevant because people don't even know who they vote for. They just vote down the line. So 8,000 votes got him the seat. Bonnie Watson is about 40,000. You want to know 40,000? 40,000 over 800,000 people. Let me tell you some of the towns that are in Bonnie Watson's district. South Brunswick, North Brunswick, Franklin, Princeton, down to Trenton area. What does that tell you? We have a significant population there. You can move the needle. I'll give you another example. When we did Uncommitted and we partnered as a Muslim Civic Coalition, so a little bit about the Muslim Civic Coalition for those that don't know. The Muslim Civic Coalition came out of the Muslim Coalition, where we got all the large masajid of New Jersey to come together to advocate and lobby on behalf of the Muslims. ISCJ, under the leadership of Arif Patel and Sister Atia, have been an active member of this coalition. We've written multiple letters lobbying to our governor, state reps, and federal reps. We had 67 masajid sign on to these letters. 67 masajid. Think about the last time 67 masajid on paper agreed to anything. We had them agree to this. 5 letters, one of them on behalf of our students even, to say what's happening on these campuses is wrong. So we had all these masajid sign on to it. From that, we said the C3 of the masjid will be compromised if we become political. We can't become political. We can do policy, we can't become political. So we then said we're going to create a C3 and a C4. So alhamdulillah, we created a C3 called the New Jersey Muslim Civic Coalition and a C4 called the Muslim Civic Coalition Activate. What is a C3? A C3 is to get out the vote, to educate people, to get folks like Brother Ahmad here, who's a Rutgers student, mashallah, to now take this pathway into civic engagement and really shake up our country. Bring this beautifulness of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of this character that we've been trained with, and share it with the world through this civic engagement. Stop hoarding it for ourselves and our own organizations and share it with the world. The C3 is meant to do that. The C4 is meant to be a policy advocate and to endorse candidates and to really push the envelope when it comes to political things. You might say, well, Sammy, you're dreaming. That's never going to happen. Would you be surprised if I told you that in the few months that we've been around, that we partnered with other organizations, and allyships are going to be critical to this, by the way, to do the uncommitted vote. We got 46,000 votes, 46,000 votes in a primary. Now remember, I told you what a primary means. Governor Murphy won his primary by 250,000 votes. That's it. He only got 250,000 votes for his primary. Right now, there's about 5 or 6 people running for the Democratic Party. 5 or 6 people running for the Democratic Party right now. 50,000 votes, or 46,000 votes, will literally decide the difference between who becomes the next Democratic candidate and the next governor. That's how much power we have. And do you think we're the only ones that notice it? No, we're not. On this Tuesday, I'm meeting with one of the candidates, the front runners. We already met with 4 of the candidates. They want to meet with us because they understand the power that comes with being able to move the vote. But we can't do it if we're not actually going out to vote. The last statistic that I read was something just over 50% of Muslims are actually going out to vote. Compare that to some of the Christian populations, especially the evangelicals, where actually some statistics show them over 90%, some show them 99% of them are voting. Think about the influence they have when you get that type of vote out. It's significant. Primaries are one of the best ways to exert your power. New Jersey makes it even easier. Why? Because we run off cycle. So the whole federal election happened this year. New Jersey's election is when? Next year. Low turnout. Low turnout, a small population will be oversized in terms of its magnitude if they go out to vote in magnitude. You guys understand? You see where I'm going with this? If we can get out the vote and convince people in our masajid to go out, we will get that. Dr. Muhammad Abbasi, unfortunately, came up with a very daunting statistic. Dr. Muhammad Abbasi, as you may know, did his PhD. He's a well-known khatib up north. And the finding from doing a 7-year PhD in this, and he had to defend this at a university, one of the most salient points was the more religious a Muslim becomes, the less likely they are to become civically engaged. I'm going to say it one more time. The more religious a Muslim becomes, the less likely they are to be civically engaged. You hear the irony there? You hear the irony there? This is statistically proven. I can send the paper. Actually, I'll send it to Arif Patel, and Arif can send it out to whoever is interested, inshallah. And by religious, he defined that as they pray at least 5 times a day. He originally said they went to the measure. He said there's actually no distinction in his statistics between prays 5 times a day and goes to the measure. So that means we are failing at an institutional level, at the Sunday schools, at the masajid, to inform people how important it is to get out the vote and influence. Because if you don't do that, then you actually have no claim later to say anything. One thing that I heard was getting involved locally. When I went to school, I did my master's in government. I originally wanted to go straight for Congress, make a run there. Then I said, no, I'm going to focus locally. And I will tell you, the impact that you can have locally is amazing. I'm the vice president currently. I'm going to be exiting soon, but I'm the vice president currently for the Board of Education in the next town over, Franklin Township. And just in a few years, alhamdulillah, Franklin Township, which isn't known for its educational system, has become rated by U.S. News & World Report one of the best high schools in America. We're top 20% in America. This just happened. First year ever we've gotten that accolade this year, 23-24. In every one of our schools now, to talk about Eid, in every one of our schools, we already had Eid from 2 decades ago, but in every one of our schools now, you can ask for halal meat. If you're in the high school, it's actually there available to you. So now every one of our Muslim students can have halal meat. We created a medical center for all of our students that's going to open in 1 month that will give 8,000 students in our school system free medical care, dental care, mental health care. These are all initiatives that were pushed in the past few years that I feel like I was a big part of pushing. You can do so much locally. You can do so much locally. I started something called the Food Insecurity and Safety Coalition in Franklin. The food advocate for New Jersey who works for Governor Murphy said, you are the only town that he's like, this is the only town in New Jersey that I know of that's actually doing this. The goal of this thing is to end food security permanently in Franklin. Why is that important? My district, Franklin, is almost half Title I, meaning half of the students need assistance to pay for lunch. So food security is, how can you even think about teaching a student or having them learn if they can't even get past hunger and security? We should be doing these types of things in every one of our towns. There's no reason why you can't do it, and locally is where it's at. And you can do this right now. You don't even need to be elected. To what Brother Omar was saying about the county seats, one of the things that these guys do, and it's so funny, I went to one of these things, they pick who gets to be on the ballot. So you go out to a room, and there's 500 of these delegates from all around the county, and they literally get to say, okay, who are we going to go for, Andy Kim or Tammy Murphy? And everybody raises their hand. It's kind of funny. It's like old America, but they actually still do that. That's how much power these guys have. So whoever wins the majority of that 500 gets to be on the ballot, and whoever doesn't is not on the ballot. You know, in Franklin, we have 14 seats still open. 14. You could go right now and be a part of it. You know, when Pasquale died, he's our congressman from North Jersey, Diab Mustafa from PAC, they really wanted to get Andre, who's the mayor of Patterson, to really have a run. So they went and they're like, oh man, where can we find some of these county committee seats? He found that Passaic had 19 of them. He submitted 24 names. The next day he had 19 people on that council. You guys see this power? You build from the ground up. If we can do that, and by the way, Hillsborough had another 15, 16. You just go down the towns. These are things locally we can do. So what we want to do as part of the Civic Coalition is get folks here that are activated. I see Brother Abdul Basit, who's part of our Civic Coalition. Brother Arif's part of our Civic Coalition. Brother Abdul Basit too is also part of our Civic Coalition. Abdul Basit Haq and Abdul Basit Abdullah that are there. If you're activated and you want to be a part of changing this, the way you're going to do it is by getting out the vote, getting people to actually show up at the polls, running yourself for some of these races, and really putting your money where your mouth is and funding some of these things. Sheikh Yasser Qadi, and Sheikh Shibli's here, he can correct it or if he'd like. But he actually said that the Islam Council, the Muslim Council of America, which Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui is the head of, Sheikh Yasser Qadi is a part of it, he actually went so far as to say that part of your zakat, it will be eligible to spend on these political and civil endeavors. And they're coming out with an entire fatwa that they're going to write that you can then take and spend on this. Can you imagine? The American Muslim population gives billions of dollars, by the way, a year in zakat. Just American Muslims. I was part of Islamic Relief. I helped find the foundation, the endowment. Alhamdulillah, we're at $20 million. But one of the things that we got at Islamic Relief is $130 million. That's just one organization per year. We give billions. Can you imagine if we took a sliver of that and now started using it towards these? We would drown an APAC. $100 million would be a joke. You understand what I'm saying? These are avenues that we have. And the way that it works is that zakat has 8 categories. And some of the categories are even like softening the heart of the non-believer or protecting the Muslim Ummah. These are categories that this can fit into. Don't believe me, ask Sheikh Shibli, ask Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui, ask Sheikh Yasser Qadi, and they might be good. But even short of that, we need to start putting our money where our mouth is, and we will make real change. If we can get out the vote next June, which is when the primary is, we will make that statement. That 46,000 votes from the primary last time was enough to have all of these folks already approaching us and saying, what do you want? There's one prominent one that even said, we will give you a cabinet seat. Just have the Muslim community come behind us. You understand what I'm telling you here? This is how much influence we can have. We are the sleeping giant in the room. We may not be able to affect who wins and loses in terms of running our own candidates, but we can certainly affect between the ones that are there and be that difference maker. And for that, we need to start asking for things. We have 12 representatives and 2 senators. What have we asked of them? What have we asked of them? Who's meeting with them? Barely anybody. Sheikh Shibli and I met with Governor Murphy a few times, right? We sat with him and we tried to influence, but it was small and paltry. What we're talking about now is building real power through these civic coalitions by learning about the system and influencing these particular things. I want to pause here because I want to allow for any discussion points or, okay, I see Brother Abdul and I see Sheikh Shibli. I have to go Sheikh Shibli. Sorry, Brother Abdul Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair, Imam Shabli. Brother Bilal.
Especially that the election happened just like 2 weeks ago. We are not too far from it, and we know how important things are. Uh, I would expect 10 times of people to be here, the community to be here, and it's not the. This is not the problem with the masjid. I'm sure the masjid, alhamdulillah, they made announcements. I've seen it in multiple places, but there is a issue with the community that we need to tackle here. Why are they not interested in something like this? And that should be the responsibility of all of us. I'm not saying like the masjid needs to do. All of us should have a responsibility. So I'm going to suggest something, and it's not the only thing that can be done. But one thing that each one of you is part of a circle. I highly suggest and request that each one of you will keep talking and raise the issue with their own circle. Tomorrow, Saturday, then Sunday, I'm sure many of you will have social gatherings. Talk to people about it and take the message that we just heard here and convey it to them. But the point here is that we really need the community to be more responsible, more responsive. They can't just be so passive. It kills you when you're talking to people who are not even understanding what is important for them. Somebody was telling me about, some people just want to live in their own bubble and they don't think the outside world is affecting them. But I'll tell you, it's affecting their children. You can live in your own bubble, but your children are they're not living with you in the bubble. They're out there. And everything that happens out in society is affecting them. And that's why when you get to college, you find some Muslim students or kids who are becoming atheists because we left them to the wild world out there, and we did not really establish for them the right environment, not only inside the masjid but outside the masjid. So I think my message is clear, inshallah. I hope that we all feel the responsibility here and we all take part of this effort that is being done. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Yeah, just to build on that, I think it's actually an amana on all of us. It's our tax dollars that are going to pay for that. And if you actually aren't going out there and making a statement that this is wrong, then you're complicit. You are complicit. There's no other way to say it. You are complicit. You sat home while votes were being done to kill your brothers and sisters. There's no other way around it. I want to be as harsh as possible because my family can't wait for you to figure out that you're like ready to do this or to go have those conversations. These are tough conversations that you need to activate. Everybody here, if they can get 10 more people to activate, then that will have reverberations throughout our community. And I forgot to mention that Sister Marian Kadavik is actually one of our senior leaders on the Muslim Coalition. So apologies for that. Are there sisters that have comments?
I just wanted to add one brief thing is maybe because I'm young and perhaps a little bit naive, but as true as that is, I do also see a lot of hope because I think that if this happened last year, I think we wouldn't have had half the turnout. So I think, obviously this is why we're doing this. The community needs to get more engaged, and I think that people are becoming more receptive to it. And, with that plan, I think that in no time, inshallah, we'll reach that level. I'm confident.
It's not only legal, Sheikh, it's actually happening. Masjid Ali in Franklin already has it. Masjid Ali is a polling station. It is easy, it's just an application, and ISCJ can become a polling station. Next year, ISCJ will be, that's it, we have the fatwa. Dr. Arif Patel, please take care of it. That's it. Bismillah, inshallah, I'm with you. Jazakallah kulla khair. You have to. You have to. I mean, you take it up with the Sheikh. I think one of the sisters had a thought.
Okay, I'm the spokesperson today. One point that was brought up, and I guess this is something that we can take offline for the Muslim Civic Coalition, but as we do these events, if there are people who are interested in taking those next steps and kind of establishing train the trainer. So these are ways that you can get involved, but how do we do it, right? Because when it comes especially to civic involvement, I don't know where our community is at in terms of even knowing the basics. And a presentation like this is great. And then understanding, okay, you mentioned some committee positions. How do you even start? Like, do you apply to that? Different things like that.
Yeah, those are all great points. One of the things that we're going to do as a Muslim Civic Coalition is we're going to start creating structure. And we're going to have each town, inshallah, have some representatives from the Muslim Coalition that will be able to be that facilitator. So South Brunswick will have one, Franklin will have, and so on and so forth. We're identifying the people right now to do exactly that. So that's it. This is the exact thoughts that we were trying to provoke in people's minds as we, so, you know, if Sister Emil wants to be one of them, let's do it. You know, otherwise we will find folks that will do it, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Sister Emil's got a backup. Yeah.
I don't need it.
No, those are excellent points. And yeah, no, inshallah, and you will definitely be part of it. But go, Atika. Allahu Akbar. That is correct. Right. Allah. I will tell you when we Jazakallah khair. I will tell you when we meet with these representatives, and I've met with pretty much every single representative we have in New Jersey at the federal level. I will tell you, they will tell us, okay, this is great. You guys had this one meeting. We have 6 for every one meeting you give them. We have like 6 this week with every faction from the other side. They divide. They're in. It's not like, oh, we have this one united. No, they have every single piece of that other side has already met with them that week. Forget about every other week. Forget about every other phone call. When something happens, they get 1,000 phone calls and they react because they don't want that. That does get sent to them. They summarize it, and then that rep looks at it and he does, okay, he sees, oh, I'm out. Okay, it's just that one person, no big deal. Oh, wait, now it turned into 10. Now they give them statistics on this stuff. This stuff matters. It really has impact. And just to the point that we were making earlier, too, in terms of you want to make impact, there's a few statistics that we should know. Over 90% of House seats, the House of Representatives, have one thing in common in terms of the winner. It's not party. It's not anything you might think about, male, female, Christian, not Christian. It literally is one thing. Whoever raises more money, 90% of the time wins that seat. It is literally a money game. Then you say, okay, so why are the lobbies so powerful? Well, that's the reason. Because the lobbies can go in with money, and when you're giving that person, and to win a congressional seat now, you're talking about $2 or $3 million minimum. Jamal Bowman, when he got challenged, it was $20 million that AIPAC dumped on. They sent a huge shockwave that when Bill Pascrell died, you had 2 people that were way ahead of Nellie Poe to become the next congressperson. 2 people. One was Andre, and the other one was Shavonda. Shavonda was a very outspoken black woman. She was amazing. She's been a ball of fire. She's an assemblywoman right now. She's also the goddaughter of the county chair, Curry. So you'd say, oh my God, she's just going to walk into that seat. The powers that be came and said, no, she can't be it. She called for a ceasefire. When she was in the New Jersey legislature, she called for a ceasefire. That was the end of her road. They're like, we don't want this AIPAC money coming after us. Choose somebody that's not going to cause as many waves, a party person. So they chose Nellie Poe. These are how these decisions are made. And if we stay quiet and we're not willing to pay any money and we're just not going to vote and we're not going to call, we're not going to do anything, then it just keeps happening. We make the machine so easy. All of this resistance you see is with us putting almost zero effort, right? Now we need to start putting this effort, and it has to start with these young kids over here, to be honest. But it has to start with the older folks, too, that can put some money. Are there any other thoughts or comments? Yes, sir. Right. You knew that much? Most people don't even know that much, I'll be honest. You're absolutely right. Brother Abdul Basit mentioned that Care Action's doing it. We're also doing it. For the next election, we're planning to be in every single district that has a significant Muslim population and to help with that guidance with those people that we were just talking about, the same people that are part and parcel of that community, inshallah. So jazakallah khair. And be involved, be that person that is the one telling people what to do, right? We need more of those folks, right? Because when you show up, you actually make those different changes, even at the township level, and that does have impact. Where do these people come from? They come from the local, they graduate to the state, and then they go to the federal, many of them, right? That's the path. Mariam, you got somebody? No? Sisters. No? Yes, sir. mean, I don't see that there's verses. This is part and parcel. Like the aggregate is just a sum of the individual parts, right? I think what we need to do as a Muslim community, and I really despise this, by the way, so I need to put this out there. I really despise this villainizing each other, right? I just went to a conference over the weekend where the mayor from Hamrock, you may have seen him, the guy who endorsed Trump so vigorously, right? I actually went up to him and I said, thank you for doing that. Because what community have you seen that's successful that only puts all the chips behind one candidate? It makes absolutely zero sense. It makes zero sense. So you need to be in every party. Goldman Sachs gives money to everybody. Democrat, they might give different amounts, but you do that because you want to actually have influence no matter what the result is. You understand what I'm saying? So when he takes a stand like that and we villainize him, we're only splitting our own community. We should be telling people, yes, we need people here, we need people there, and we need people over here as advocates for us. And by the way, the second thing I'll say is vote with your principles and conscience. We don't need to care right now about winning and losing necessarily. We need to be care about building community, building a group of folks that will actually have power. What I mean by that is somebody up north who's a Democrat is the number, so Josh Gottheimer is the #1 highest paid APAC congressman in the entire country. He's in New Jersey. The #1 highest paid senator was also from New Jersey, Bob Menendez. He's in jail now, or going to jail. The point I'm saying is that for somebody like that, he stands completely against us. He was attacking he was attacking Muslim students in Teaneck High School. That's the level that he stooped to. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, Democrat, we're going to go that way. A lot of Muslims went behind the Green Party. Great. And then Bonnie Watson, we've mentioned her name. She has been, on October 20th, I think it was, she had already called for a ceasefire. She signed on to the Betty McCollum's bill, which says don't send bombs to kill Palestinian children. This is from several months ago. She signed on to that. So in no way are we saying, okay, Democrat. No, we vote based on the policies. We vote based on our principles, and we will have short-term losses, but we will be building power. And people will notice that because we will get more people out to vote. I'm sure wants to make.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Personal story was, I get it in early mid-80s, early 90s. I mentioned the name. If you like to write his name, would you write it right away? Muhammad Ali Chaudhary. He is the first mayor who was elected in the 50th state of America to be Muslim mayor in New Jersey. You know that. Yes? How he started to be Republican, not Democrat. Because they asked him the first job to do, to give him the stamps in the age of the stamp from the township, to put the stamp in 1,000 envelope in 1 week and mail it. From that stamp, he said, he became the mayor of the Basket Ridge, what you call it, township. The second thing is, Brother Arif Patel is here. I am requesting him as a president to reschedule this conference in any Sunday morning between 10 to 12 or to 1. Why? Because when we say something in the halaqah after Salat al-Isha, people are tired. I just came from the cemetery before Salat al-Maghrib. But I insist because a politician or what we call it, to get involved, it's in my blood. Not from today, from the day I was born in Lebanon here. If we can reschedule this conference, not for Sami, but for Umar. Let the people see a young man in a freehold in New Jersey, Homedale in New Jersey, not far away from Freehold, not far away, get involved in this business. It is too much for me to carry in my age when I see younger people, working in it. And I will close with this. Falafel, Assalamu alaikum. This young girl used to drive from Brooklyn to here in early '82. And in that time, there was no case of Gaza, but the case of Palestine. And she was fighting with me in that room, in a multi-purpose room, about anything we say it, which means we are not new, or maybe new kids on the block. We have been working since early 80 in this, but generation after generation. Brother Arif, please, if you can reschedule this some early time, let the people come afresh, learn from these young people. I will appreciate that, and may Allah read you, inshallah ta'ala. You have to email me all this, what you said. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have to leave.
Jazakallah khair. I think we'll probably close it out here, and if we have any further conversations, we can hang out. Subhanallah wa hamdika, la ilaha illa anta, من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات والتواصوا